we're going to talk about social ecology theory. We're still talking about the impact of environment or economic conditions on crime. So we're talking about now the environmental factors that occur in a community that might influence the crime rate. And there are a number of factors that happen in urban deteriorating neighborhoods that might lead to a spike in the crime rate, such as fear, unemployment, siege mentality, something called concentration effect, and a lack of collective efficacy. So let's talk about the first, fear. No doubt about it, living in an inner city crime-plagued community can be a very fearful reality for a lot of people. Being afraid to leave your home, afraid to send your children to school, afraid they won't come back home safely. This is something that people living in poor neighborhoods deal with every single day, and it leads to a lessened quality of life. And then there's unemployment. Research has shown that the highest unemployment rates tend to be in the poorest communities, where there's a lack of economic opportunities through jobs. So oftentimes this leads to what's called an underground economy, or an economy that's built on illicit enterprise or crime. So there's a lack of jobs, there's a lack of private transportation like your own car to take you to a job, and maybe even undependable mass transit, such as in the city of Detroit. The bus system isn't dependable, and most of the jobs are outside of the city. So people that are trapped in these poor communities don't have a way to make money to take care of their family. So a lot of times they'll get involved in criminal enterprise to make money to take care of themselves and their children. And then there's something called siege mentality. Now, siege mentality refers to distrust that individuals might have for the government and the police. In poor communities, they're very distrustful of the government, and they have good reason. Because one of the most frightening things a person can hear is, we're from the government and we're here to help you. Governments have been known to local governments, federal government also, has been known to set up programs that have been geared to help an inner city neighborhood, but ultimately it leads to harm. We've also seen where local governments have allowed zoning of businesses that involve themselves or participate in environmental racism, where they build industry that's bad for human health in the very neighborhoods where these people live, where there's smokestacks giving off pollution that leads to asthma, respiratory diseases, and even cancers. This happens all the time. So as a result of that, people tend to be very distrustful of the government. And I don't think I have to get too deep into a discussion about the disproportionate number of unarmed civilians being shot by the police in Black and brown communities. This happens quite often. So as a result of that, people are as afraid of the police as they would be of criminals. And then there is concentration effect. Concentration effect discusses how a lot of times in inner city communities, poverty becomes concentrated when middle class families move out. So as soon as someone is able to get enough money to buy a home outside of that area, that's what they do. And when they leave behind the most disadvantaged and poor people in that community. And then there's something called collective efficacy. Collective efficacy is when a community can come together and maintain social control. But that doesn't always happen in poor neighborhoods where, again, people are distrustful of each other. So in a neighborhood that demonstrates collective efficacy, you have mutual trust among the neighbors. You have them looking out for each other and looking out for each other's children. And you have them maintaining public order. In inner city communities, this tends to be lacking.